Hey everybody, what's going on? KSA Kris here. Real Estate Blitz. Want to bring in Kim Steele herself.
Hi.
Hi everybody. So want to bring in Kim to talk about something that I posted up earlier, and it's talking about interviewing agents. And you know, I see it pretty often where somebody they go in the phone book or wherever they consume their information, newspaper, we see that, and they go, you know what, this guy, and they just pick the first person that comes up. My concern with that is you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I know in this market, what's the median home price? Let's say we're
$650.
$650. So $650,000 is the median home price in the market that we're in right now. And you're just going to pick the first random person that you happen to find. You see it on Zillow. Oh, that guy, he looks good. And they just click on it. Next thing you know, you're wondering why your house isn't selling. You're wondering why you're getting lowball offers. You're wondering why you see zero marketing material out there on your home. And you're wondering what you did wrong. I'm here to tell you did something wrong, right? And that's really what we posted. I tell people all the time, and I've actually had other agents tell me, don't say that, Kris, it's horrible. I tell people all the time, interview 3 agents. Interview 3 agents. And every time, I don't really do a ton of listing appointments anymore. Kim does, since she owns the business, and she does it with Chet and a couple other people that are listing agents. I've sort of transitioned on the team. But when I was doing listings, I used to tell people all the time when I called them, awesome, are you interviewing other people? You should be. If you're, we don't mind, we're going to show up. I believe we're going to compete extremely well. I believe we have something that a lot of people don't. I believe we can get your house sold. This is what we're going to bring to the table. But are you going to interview other people? And they say, no or yes. My thing is, I always make the recommendation, you should at least interview 3 agents. And honestly, if they interview 3 agents, most of the time we're going to get the listing anyways because of what we provide. And we're very good at what we do. So this is kind of the tip. I brought in Kim because A, she's a very high producing listing agent. For one. For two, she just had a very interesting appointment with a lady. It was like what, 1.1? Just over $1 million. $1 million property that she just went on a listing appointment with. And I thought it was absolutely fantastic when I heard how the appointment went, because this lady asked a ton of questions. Yes. She was interviewing the top 3 agents in this market, and Kim happened to be on the list, and she just asked all of the right questions, ended up loving Kim, and it was fantastic. So talk me through kind of some of the questions that she asked you.
She treated it like an interview, and that's what we tell people to do. Mm-hmm. And most of the time they nod and say, yeah, but they don't really know what questions to ask. So imagine if somebody told you that, you're going to have a company, or you're going to be a manager, and you're going to interview people for a job, but you don't know how to do that job.
Right.
So how are you interviewing?
How are you
people?
Supposed to interview?
It's if it's your line of business, of course you would know how to interview somebody to do your job.
Well, I think the big key on that is how often do people actually sell a home? So most people don't even know.
Exactly, they don't know what to ask. So they say yeah, interview. But what are you asking? Mm-hmm. And more importantly, how are you verifying that? Mm-hmm. So I mean, agents walk in and I've heard some stuff that people walk in and say.
That's 100% false.
That's 100% false. And so I think, it's knowing what questions to ask. And I think that this particular appointment, really interview, could have been very off-putting for some agents. Mm-hmm.
Which personally,
having nothing to do with their production or their experience, but just it was unconventional. This particular seller, in my opinion, did it 100% right. Mm-hmm. It was a conversation. It was a 2-way conversation. But she had a list of questions in front of her as though she were a manager interviewing somebody for a job. So can you tell us
some of those questions?
Yes. She started off asking about production. And, of course, that's a very valid question. And
why is that a valid question? Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't understand, because a lot of these videos are also for people that you don't do real estate every day.
Right.
So when somebody asks you, they say, what's your production? Basically, how many properties have you sold?
How many properties did you sell last year?
How many properties did you sell last year?
Right.
Why is that important? Well, here's the thing. You have to understand, as soon as somebody gets a real estate license, if they show up wearing a nice suit and you saw something on Zillow, you're like, well, they're a real estate agent. But they've sold 0 homes. If they've sold 0 homes, so I tell people this all the time, and Kim's heard me actually talk about this. I don't know if you are into cars. I love cars, and Bentley is a fantastic, amazing car, right? And what I find unique about Bentley is the steering wheel. The steering wheel alone. There's a 3rd generation, 3 generations of same family.
Always talk about the fork guy.
Yeah, and he used
it's
a fork. the guy that's doing it right now, and his sons are coming in, 4th generation.
It's the same fork.
It's the same fork from the 1st generation that they used to actually do the stitching on the steering wheels. So now going into 4 generations, could you imagine taking that guy and saying, hey, I want you to work on the engine? What? That doesn't make any sense. It's not a specialty. So when you talk about a listing agent, somebody that's going to list your home and get it sold, you want somebody that is producing.
Lists homes and gets them sold.
That's what they do. They list homes and sell them.
So I think what was really interesting about this conversation was not only did she have all of the right questions to ask, and I'll go into a little more detail as well, but her attitude was one of, I'm going to ask this question, but it doesn't have to be a black and white answer. You know, explain to me why other experiences that you've had in the real estate business may contribute to your experience with selling this particular home. And that was really interesting to me as well, because if you do also go ahead and relate that back to a job interview. Mm-hmm. So they may, you know, the job description will often say, well, requires a master's degree in X, whatever the job is. But when you sit down at that interview, maybe you only have a bachelor's degree and you're working on your master's degree. But you're able to say, well, you know, in my prior career before this, I have this experience and that, you know, maybe I was in the military or I taught, you know, at a school or something of that nature. So it was really interesting that not only did she have this set of fairly intimidating questions, but she was really willing to sort of bend around and listen to other types of experience. She really did treat it like a job interview. And she went down the line. She asked us about the history of our company, which is huge. Because, again, that goes back to, okay, well, you know, everybody knows, it's no secret, KSA is not an old company. There's a lot of people that have been doing it a lot longer than us. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of benefits to other facets and other things that we grew out of that contribute to our overall understanding of the business, that if you've just been hanging a real estate license for 30 years, you don't have those other facets of experience. And she really respected that.
Right.
And so that was really interesting. She wanted to know the history of our company. How did we start? Where did we all meet? Mm-hmm. Why did we decide to work together? What did we do? How did that come about? Right. Why did we decide to go this route? And I told her the story, and she just kept engaging about it. And it was just really, really interesting. And then from that point, you know, we talked about, of course, the typical things you would talk about at a listing appointment. You talk about marketing, and here's the types of things that we're going to do. And I think this is something that's so important, too. When you're interviewing an agent and they say, well, I'm going to do, and it doesn't, you know, whatever your style may be, whether it's they're going to put it in the newspaper, whether it's they're going to do social media, whether it's whatever it is that they say they're going to do, ask to see it. Mm-hmm. Ask to see it.
Right.
Well, great. Can I see your last newspaper ad? What's that look like?
What does it look like?
You know, do you have a proof of that in your book? Your social media?
I've actually heard.
You keep talking about these videos. Can I see one of the videos? Do you have your iPad? Can you whip it out and show me this video platform that you're talking about and how it's beautiful and
right.
I want to see it.
I've heard from past clients, they actually hired somebody, that person said, we're going to do all these things. And then when it came to pass, they actually didn't do any of it, right. And they have never done it. Right. And then they end up calling us for an expired listing. Right. And then they're like, you know, so you say you're going to do video, you say you're going to do professional photos,
well,
you say you're going to...
Of course, we know there's videos and there's videos too.
Yeah, there's a difference between doing videos
again,
and videos.
that platform in particular, do you mean that you're going to walk around my house with your phone, shaking it, or are you going to hire a professional videographer? And it's okay if you're willing to sign on with the person that's going to walk around your house. That's okay.
Right.
But you want to know, you want to make an educated decision. That's my biggest thing in this business is educate the client and then allow them to make an educated decision. It doesn't matter if it's the decision that we as the agent wouldn't agree with.
Right.
It's their decision, not ours. We have to educate them and then allow them to make an informed decision. If they feel that the person that is going to use their phone to make the video had other things going for them and they want to hire, fantastic. But they deserve to know that up front. They deserve to not feel that they were misled into thinking that it was going to be something other than it was. Mm-hmm. She asked me how much we spend to market a property of that caliber. And I told her. And she was quite surprised. I don't think people really realize what it costs to
what it should
properly
cost.
what it should cost to
What it should
properly
cost to
launch
properly launch a property.
and put a property on the market, regardless of price point.
Right.
So she was a little blown away by that.
You're 100% right, because it is an investment on the listing agent's side. They're investing in that property to get it sold.
Correct.
And some agents don't really invest
Correct.
into the property. I guess the way we look at it, so like $1 million+ property, that's probably, you know, a $30,000 paycheck.
Right.
Going out and spending $10,000, you know, it's an investment to get $20,000. You're
Right.
doubling your money, and that's
Well, and that was a really interesting piece of the conversation as well, because she had already gone down the road of asking us how our company originated, which of course we originated doing flips and investment side transactions. And so when I explained to her that we look at every listing as an investment, no different than if it was a flip that I purchased with my own money to renovate, I'm going to spend X dollars to get X dollars. That's all it is. This is your biggest investment probably that you've ever made.
right.
And so I am also going to treat it like an investment, and I'm going to invest money into making more money
Right.
for you and for me. As a flipper, I don't go out and expect to buy a house for 10 cents and put $3 into it and then make $150,000. I'm going to have to spend some money to make some money back. It's the same with a listing. So, you know, when you frame it that way, it's like the light bulb comes
Right.
on. So that's a really important question to ask. And again, it could be off-putting, and it depends on the person, you know, but it is their business. It's not none of their business. It is the seller's business how much you're going to invest to get that property sold.
Right.
They know what you're making. Your commission's right there
It's right
on
there.
the contract. So, you know, they deserve to know what portion of that is being reinvested into a successful sale and transaction.
Right.
So that's a big one.
What would be, so give us three things. What if, so the people that are watching this, if they're going to be interviewing agents, what are the 3 things that you would say at a minimum you should be asking these questions?
The top 3 things I would say are, number 1, production is always, you know, a factor. However, be willing to listen to the other things that they've done that may
Right.
have given them
Because
experience.
in the beginning we weren't producing.
Right. And
Well, we hadn't produced
I
because we had just
know a
started.
couple of great agents that started out as lenders, for example.
Right.
And of course, they're very much more highly regulated, and they know the ins and outs of the business in a lot of cases way better than agents, or people that started out in other different facets of the business and have now. So don't be afraid of the agent that says, "Well, I just got my license last year and I did 10 transactions, but I was a lender for 25 years." They
Yeah.
could be fantastic.
Right.
So don't be black and white about it, but you want to know
Right.
what the production is.
Number 2.
Number 2, what are you going to do to market it? What are you going to do
That's
to market
huge.
it? And it's not just about what are you going to spend, because it's, are you going to spend on the right things?
Right.
Explain to me, what are those things? So all that stuff you tell me, and it's going to cost all this money, and it looks pretty on the screen. Show me what it's going to do. Okay, great. Here are the media posts that we've done, and here's the
Right.
level of engagement that's occurred.
Listen to this. Did you hear what she just
Okay.
said? So if you're watching this, and I hear it all the time, oh, we're big into social media. Look, if somebody says they're big into social media, it's easy. Say, good, show me.
And show me the level of engagement.
Show me the engagement.
Facebook has a back end, and we'll just use Facebook as an example because all of them do. Facebook has a back end. When you have a business page and you do paid ads, and this isn't what I do, this is Chris's side of what he does, but I know Facebook has a back end that shows you what your organic reach was, what your paid reach was, how many people commented, how many people shared, down to the nitty gritty little number, exactly what went on with that piece that you did and put out. So ask for that.
Yeah.
Ask them to pull their iPad
You should
out,
be able to pull it up.
show you that social media page, show you their last 3 paid ads, and what was the level of engagement. If they don't even know that there is a back end, that could be a red flag.
The answer is no. So I'll talk about Facebook. I'll run down with this real quick because I think this is extremely important. How are you going to market my property? If they bring up social media specifically, so the Kim Steele and Associates Facebook page alone, we usually get anywhere from 200 to 300,000 people that actually engage with that page every 28 days. 200 to 300,000 people every 28 days engage with that page and look at the properties that we have listed. If somebody can't pull up their insights on Facebook, there it is. And that's my biggest issue with real estate agents. They say they're in social media, yet they get 0 engagement on any of the stuff that they do. If they're into Instagram, look, Instagram's super easy. You pull it up and you can physically see who's following them, how many people engage on every post, and what you're going to get. When you start looking at their YouTube pages, it's same thing. Pull up the YouTube page. It shows you how many people have engaged with it, how many people look at videos, how long they watch them. I mean, it's all right there.
And with social media, of course, it's easy because it does give you all those metrics. It's much more difficult if you're talking about mailers or even email campaigns. There's metrics
Zillow,
to a point.
but you can pull up Zillow stuff.
You can pull up
Zillow's
Zillow. You can pull up
Twilio.
engagement metrics with Zillow. You can put, if you're using an email blast system like Constant Contact or MailChimp, you can pull up engagement metrics with that. Of course, if you have your own website for your team or your, then you can pull up engagement metrics with that. But if you're talking about more traditional media like print media or even radio or something like that, it's much more difficult to sort of
but you could still show them the product that
show metrics for that. Right. I mean, you can, there's ways to do it that aren't quite as accurate.
I think I only get upset when I hear people talk about social media. That's the only time I get worked up.
But I think it's important to, so going back to question number 2, it's important to ask not just, okay, what are you going to do, what, and kind of what's the investment, but also what's the result going to be. Because, it's kind of like when you do a renovation. Well, I spent $60,000 on this renovation. Yeah, but it's hideous and it's not going to sell. It's the same thing. Like, you can say, well, I'm going to spend all this money, but if you don't know what you're doing to spend money in the right places, then it's not going to matter. So waste
I think another thing, too. So this is what I would say to you folks if you're watching this. Whatever they're paying into the advertising or whatever marketing they're going to do on your property, I would personally want to look at, is the marketing to help them get more business? Right. Or is the marketing actually to sell my house? And to be honest with you,
it's always both.
It is. It has to be both, and it has to be balanced. I actually had a client reach out. Yeah, your picture is overlapped on one of the photos of my toilet, and I was like, well, in his bathroom, and I says, yes, but if you look at the total flyer, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful flyer. In fact, it's so beautiful that you got that same flyer from a different house. How many months?
8 months ago.
8 months ago. You kept it.
And that's why you called us.
You went to our open houses. You kept the flyer and you called us. Because you love the way that we market properties. Now you're kind of like, well, I don't want any of your stuff on the flyer. That, it's a balance. It has to be between both. But I think what I've seen with a lot of agents is they are literally marketing only to generate new business, and it's absolutely not to sell the home that they're listing. So number 3. What's number 3?
Okay, so number 3, I don't know, I have to think for a minute. There's so many. I mean, I could give you a top 20.
I want a top 3.
There's so many.
So first one we talked about was production. Second one we talked about was marketing, which I think would be mine.
Huge.
That's huge.
Marketing's huge.
So what would number 3 be?
Number 3, I would say, you can start to, at that point, because I think this is very important, and this is a little bit of a different topic, but if I'm not happy, what is the process? Are you going to let me out of the contract? Because they don't have to.
Right.
And a lot of people will defer to their broker. So maybe, and this is a topic for another video for another day, but a lot of people probably don't realize that, your listing agreement is really not with the agent unless the agent's also the broker. Your listing agreement legally is with the broker. The agent is just a salesperson under that brokerage. And so it's really up to the broker's policy whether they will release you from a listing agreement. Now, what does that mean? When you're in a listing agreement, you're not obligated to sell, but you're obligated to, if you do sell, you're going to pay that agent.
Right.
Which means if you're unhappy with that agent, you can't get out of that contract and go hire a different one until that listing agreement expires. I like to write, and this is just for the market that we're in because of the turnover rate that's here and the statistics that we have. I like to write listing agreements for 6 months as a general default in most cases. However, if I'm asked the question, in 30 days, if I'm just not happy, number one, I mean, if it takes 30 days and you've let it build up to where you're calling me to cancel, we already have a communication problem. We should be communicating. Tell me what you don't like. Tell me what we can do to help fix it. But at the end of the day, sometimes things just aren't a fit.
Right.
And so a big question to ask is, will you let me out of the contract? Because they don't have to legally. Right. But to me, it's good business to have a policy that you do and that you will. I don't want to be locked in a contract with somebody that doesn't want to be locked in a contract with me. Mm-hmm. It's counterproductive.
Do you want to hear my number 3?
Sure.
Do you know them, like them, and trust them?
That was going to be my next one. I was going to bring that up. and that may be the number one. It's you're talking about an investment. You're talking about a financial transaction, a business transaction. So of course you want to have somebody that has expertise and professionalism and that is going to do a good job.
Production, good marketing.
Right, but
if you don't even like them, and you don't feel like you know them or you can trust them, this is going to be one of the most stressful things you will ever do. And that's in the best possible buying
scenario.
or selling, it's always stressful.
Right. That's in the best possible scenario, and we say this all the time. Even if, there's absolutely no distress, there's no bad situation, there's no financial problems, the house is beautiful, it's going to sell, it shows beautiful. Even under perfect circumstances, this is going to be stressful. Strangers are coming in and out of your home, your most prized possession, your most valuable possession. There's going to be a transaction, they're going to ask for repairs, it's going to be emotional, it's going to be at times insulting. It's going to be stressful.
Right.
And so if you are being forced to deal with a person that may be the most competent person you could have ever imagined, but you don't like, it's going to be more stressful.
Right.
It's going to go bad. It's going to go bad. It's no different than a doctor. I mean, you want to go to the doctor that can make you better. You don't want to go to the idiot doctor just because you like them.
Right.
But you don't want to be sick and vulnerable and dealing with a person who's arrogant and you don't like them and your personalities don't click. That's not a position you want to be in either. So you have to like them. And we tell all of our listing appointments, it's an interview. Please interview us. Ask us anything. We also want you to like us. Otherwise, this won't work.
And vice versa.
But it's also an interview where we are interviewing you. We have to like you too. We don't have to be in love and run off into the sunset after the house closes and be best friends and do karate in the garage. But we have to be able to get along and communicate.
Right.
And we have to see eye to eye on certain things.
Right.
And if we can't, then it may not be a fit. And I have referred people to other agents. I have told people, you know what, it's not a fit, but I know
somebody that will work out.
Some things about certain agents and the way that they do business, and I think that their model could really be a fit for you.
Right.
And they, and
I think you hit a key there, the model. And I think for every homeowner or any person that's selling a home, different models are going to fit. Our model for Kim Steele and Associates is extremely different from the other agents that are here, or even brokerages. We're heavy into social media. We're extremely aggressive. We really do a lot of more modern type things. Some people don't like that. We've walked into listing appointments where they're like, "Well, I've never seen you in the paper," and it's like, "Yeah, you haven't, because we don't do the paper.
We do.
It's not really our thing." Everybody has a different model, and I think it's important that person fits in your model. So we got to cut this off because we're already 22 minutes in. I've been trying to keep these down to 10 minutes, but I thought this was a very important topic for sure. So if you're out there and you're looking to interview an agent, here it is. You just got the gold. So thank you, Kim, for sitting in with me. Thank you for watching. Do me a favor, like, share, comment. Make sure you go check out our YouTube page as well. I just sort of brought that up. It's going to be transitioning soon. And of course, here in the very near future, we're going to be standing up the podcast. So we appreciate you as always. KSA Kris here, Real Estate Blitz. Talk to you all soon. Have a good one.